Welcome back, baseball fans, to another elimination video. We are eliminating the Arizona Diamondbacks, who have made it the furthest into a season in the last half dozen years at least, winning the division after an 0-10 start. So give them the Grit Award. Who starts 0-10 and wins the division? Even in your 162 game season, what 0-10 teams win a division? I mean, it's tough. They hit 274, and actually these numbers, they're not going to look as good because you got to factor in the 0-10, right? If I could somehow strip away the first 10 losses, we'd be looking at a 20-9 team. But they still hit 274, 185 runs, gave up 195, 4.64 ERA. That has to improve. Led by the offense, of course. 300 hitters. John Knox at 337. Mike Vail hits 329. Dave May at 309. 12 homers, 39 RBI, all-star snub. Hal Breeden made an all-star appearance with 13 homers and 33 RBI. Mike Egan came over from Oakland, was a steady influence on the team. Really nothing to complain about with this offense at all. Merv Retman slumped a little bit. Mendoza almost hit 250. And Garcia hit below the Mendoza line, his teammates' line, which I guess has increased from 200 to 248. The pitching, Cleveland was solid all year long. His 3 losses were the games he got knocked around a lot, and he often had to just keep pitching while getting knocked around to save his bullpen. Bob Moose sort of struggled all year with a 446 and a losing record. Jeff Zahn had his moments. The odd case of Tom Johnson was the closer. He did get 12 saves of the 20 victories, but he lost 3 games, and his ERA was 5.40, so there was plenty of room there. This team had a dominant closer. They could have won more games and maybe won the divisional series. All the pitching really struggled early in the year. You saw Bruce Del Canton in that playoff game. He had a nice year, actually. And with that, let's take a look at the 1973 players who they're going to just have to decide who to keep, waive, and retire. And it's going to be a mixture of 4 and 4. Oh, and you got some nice contributors here on offense. Oh, and you got the whole top of the pitching staff. And this is what happens, unfortunately, for these expansion teams. They get hot in that 1 year, and then what made them hot will go away, because usually these guys are only good once in 4 years, which is why they're here in the first place. And they got to just cross their fingers and hope someone can come back and be joined by more. So they're going to have 8 hitters and 4 pitchers. Well, they begin with a nice catching platoon. Ed Herman and Bill Plummer will work in a tandem. That's not bad. Look at the lefty power there, and look at Plummer over there. You got a minor with one arm. You got a backup catcher tossed in. So this is very efficient with your 2 catchers. First base is Hegan and Breeden, who are missing, of course. Then you've got this glut in the middle infield of a lot of guys. So Knox is a one-way player. Garcia hits lefties well, was an everyday player. He should be the everyday second baseman, but he just was terrible against righties. He's an everyday player with no glove. And then Bruce Miller's a fine utility player who could be an everyday player with bad defense. And Mendoza brings the 2 shortstop, which gives him a starting gig. He's actually reasonable. We'll call him reasonable against righties and awful against lefties. But see, that's 5 cards. You'd like to have 4 cards at second, third, and short. They're using up 5, which means they went with a 3-man outfield of Mike Vail, Dave May, and Retman. Well, of course, Dave May and Retman aren't here, right? But look at Mike Vail. You'll run this card back for 2 more years and then bump it up to the next Mike Vail card. So I think Mike Vail's going to be here for a while. He's got some really nice cards coming up with the Cubs and the Mets all the way through the early 80s. So yeah, he'll be a long-time player here and help the team out with that offense. Remember, we said I'd like to build around batting average, and that's usually the first thing you look at with Mike Vail is a batting average. The pitchers, well, we got the back end of the starting and the relieving. So Zahn is a decent 3, really. A solid lefty 3 as well. This was with the Dodgers before going to the Twins. I think by the 1980s, he's with the Angels. You can hold on to this guy. Maybe just hold on to him for the long term. You need consistency. And expansion teams are destinations for guys who travel a lot. And Zahn did travel. I think he was a Cub also. Maybe the Dodgers, the Cubs, the Twins, the Angels. Does that make sense? Del Canton pitched in that playoff game. He did a good job. Kansas City wouldn't need him, right? They'd have Dennis Leonard, Larry Gurr, Paul Splittorff. They wouldn't need Del Canton in their playoff years. And then the tandem at the back end of the bullpen that just underachieved. And really, Johnson, the closer's more suited to be a long man. Doesn't give up homers to righties, does give up hits, puts men on versus lefties. This doesn't really have the earmarkings of a closer. And Darryl Knowles is more of a situational lefty, not a closer either, with the homers there. Puts the walks on. Maybe he's just not as good as we think he is. 288 ERA. But it's a year-to-year thing, is all I can say. Every time we do an elimination of a team who wasn't around in the 1970s, it's going to be a cross-your-fingers moment in the off-season. What do they do with these 8 players? Who do they keep? Who do they waive? And then who do they retire? All right, we'll take a look at the 8 players, beginning with Hal Breeden. So he had a short career. At 73, the numbers, it's his best year. He's 290 plate appearances and 888 OPS. With those homers, 6 triples are nice. On base is nice. It's all fantastic. They do make a 74 card for him. It's just not that great a card. 678 OPS for cornerman. Negative WAR. We can just double check to see if there's a Montreal card for him, to see if we can give the guy waivers. Montreal roster sheet, there's Hal Breeden right there. So we can give him waivers. And I'm not making him a keeper because I want to be more ambitious with this team and say, let's be aggressive. And if, the keepers aren't so good, there's going to be keepers available before the waiver designation, as teams aren't going to be able to find trade partners, and they're going to have to just give their players away, and that's where Arizona could pluck up a couple, pluck some away from another organization. Next up is Mike Hegan, the other first baseman on this team. Now he's got some juice left in him, a little bit here. 64 to 77. Long career, longer than I thought. Oh, I see why. Yeah, these early years with the Yankees, they didn't make cards for those. So he was a Seattle Pilot. That's a nice card. And then he's got this great year with a 72 Oakland A's. That's a World Series card, folks. 805 OPS. And then 73 cards, 675 with Oakland and the Yankees. 74, it goes up to 731 with a couple teams. 75, 727. He always has a good glove. He normally can hit lefties and righties about the same, though the average is never really amazing. But for now, I want to keep this guy because he's got some years left in him. And I will gladly push him into waivers if I can find 4 guys better than him. So let's give him, again, the difference between Hegan and Breeden is I prefer a lefty who can hit lefties a little bit and has a glove. Breeden doesn't do that. Next up is Dave May. Now, again, we regret that we just lost his best year, but he still has a nice year coming up. Dave May. Yes, he came up with Baltimore. I don't know if he played in the 69 World Series or not. But anyway, yeah, he was with them through 70. So the 73 Brewers, he was an all-star. And by the way, he led the league in total bases in 73. How about that? Now, he's got a really nice year in 75 with Atlanta with an 853 OPS. That's the card to get. So they will take, plus he hits, yeah, that's the card they're going to take. They're going to take Dave May. All right, halfway there. They got 2 of 4 keepers. Next up is Merv Retman. He should have a little bit of juice left as well. His big years in Baltimore are in the past. He hit 318, 322 in their World Series years. You see here, 322 and 318. Then he came down to earth a little bit. Still had a 789 OPS in 73. You can go all the way to a 4-year contract in 77 with an 877 OPS. Oh my goodness. That is a get. And remember, look at all the teams. Baltimore, Cincinnati, San Diego, California. That is the recipe for an expansion team. Do they make the 77 Merv Retman? This is a make or break. We really need this card if we can get it. So we're going to double check. We know he's going to have a 74 card with Cincinnati. Let's go make sure he's got that. Yeah, he's in Cincinnati's outfield. Foster, Geronimo, Griffey, Retman, and Pete Rose. So he can go on waivers if you don't want to keep him. But let's try again and see if we can find the 77 roster sheet. Here's a 77 roster sheet. You want to see him on, is it San Diego? Yeah, San Diego. If he's there, that's the card that most likely we'll take. Oh yeah, he's there. That's a keeper. That's great news. So now, remember we talked about the 3-man outfield? You can do it. You got Dave May, Mike Vail, and Merv Retman. Now the problem is, Dave may not be good against left-handed pitching in that particular card, but that's all right for now. That's a problem for another day. It's a good start, keeping 3 out of 4 of their hitters. And again, this team is built around hitting. Now the pitching. Reggie Cleveland's the next guy. Cleveland, at this point of his career, I think he's in Boston and going to a World Series maybe. He's got the hat of the Red Sox there. 75, 13-game winner with the Red Sox in a World Series. So 74, 5, 6, and 7. He splits time in 76 between starting and relieving, and that's his most effective year. Do you want him to pitch on 3 days rest again? If he does, he might struggle, but he can. In any event, I think you keep the guy because he's got 170 plus innings in 4 consecutive years. He had been with the Cardinals and now the Red Sox, and frankly, if I'm the Red Sox, I wouldn't even pursue him. I would pursue somebody better than him, leaving him here in Arizona. So I'm going to keep Reggie Cleveland here. Next up, Bob Moose. Now we mentioned in the previous video that Moose dies in the 1970s after the 76 season. In the off season, I think it was a car accident. He was only 28 years old. So the 73 season, he pitched on three days rest still with the Pirates, and he struggled a little bit. He's got 3 more years left. They move him to the bullpen to see if he can sort himself out. Does a decent job in 75 and 6. Decent, nothing spectacular here. He's sort of just a guy. If he was left-handed, he'd be like, oh, I really like this guy. But as a right-hander, these kind of stats, they're kind of ordinary. This is good news because you can, again, just like Mike Hegan, Bob Moose is in that same category. You can find better guys. So now Hegan and Moose are fighting to be the 4th keeper on this team. Next up is Steve Stone. The one thing about Moose I gotta mention too is he's not gonna get waivers in 74 because they don't make this card. So you gotta either retire him or keep him. Now what they could do is they could flip-flop him and Steve Stone, move Steve Stone into the rotation. I'm gonna make a note here because I don't want to get into a situation where they decide to move Moose off of the keeper list. No W. He cannot be put in column 2 waivers. So he has to go into retirement or you keep him. Which brings up Steve Stone, the next guy. They'd like to hold on to this guy through 1980 when he wins the Cy Young Award. Of course, that's too far away right now. But can we find a decent year moving forward? In the middle here, the Cubs years are okay. Actually, 75. Yeah, that's the year to take. You could flip-flop the responsibilities that Bob Moose and Steve Stone just had. So Bob Moose was the number 2 guy and Stone was in the bullpen. You could keep both, move Stone into the 2 spot, and move Bob Moose to the bullpen. And maybe now you're in a good situation where you got too many guys you want to keep. That's always a good option. I'm just noting that he had 200 innings in 75. And the last pitcher, Dick Bainey, will be retired because I don't think he has any more stats coming up. This is what we call an advantageous Strat-O-Matic card here. When you have a guy who's actually has some pretty good numbers here, but it's just 30 innings, but we get the card. This is a case where the Reds probably had a ton of innings with a few amount of relievers. Let's say it was Bourbon, Carroll, and one other guy was probably eating up all the innings in the bullpen, but they needed to add another Strat-O-Matic card to the Reds, so they printed this one. And it had a 104 whip. So that was a nice little card for a 4-year run. They don't make this card in 74. I don't think they do. We can check. And according to this, they do not. Oh, they do. They make a 74 Bainey, so we can give him waivers. That'll help. He doesn't have to be retired. He can go in the waiver list, but he's not going to be very good. Probably will be pushed from waivers to retirement. So with that, they have 6 guys they want to keep. They can only keep 4. May, Retman. Ooh. Well, here's the thing. I know Stone rotates. Cleveland, I'm not sure. I want him to rotate. So it could be, you know, a wait and see who's available. And the other thing too is if you don't protect Moose, chances are he or the comparable. Same with Reggie Cleveland. Chances are, if you don't keep those guys, you could probably find them or a comparable replacement in the draft anyway. But Stone pitching on 3 days rest is a good get. I would go Stone, Retman, May. I'd probably go Hegan over those guys. It's kind of. It doesn't matter that much, really. I mean, all 3 of these guys I'm talking about, Hegan, Cleveland, and Moose, just aren't, you know. This is a marginal baseball club, right? So it's not going to matter too much. But when you look at the overall number of keepers now, 22 teams have been eliminated. And now what we're seeing is we have 12 keepers, 12 desirable players who are going to end up on waivers, and the worst 2 waivered players, like Dick Bainey, I just showed you him, the worst 2 waivered players will then be sent to retirement, to a retirement pool before the draft begins. That's it. Thanks for checking out this video illuminating the Arizona Diamondbacks, and we'll see you next time.